What if everything falling apart in your life right now is happening because you've been fighting the very force designed to elevate you? What if your pain isn't punishment, but the result of ignoring the blueprint that was written long before you were born? Today, I'm going to tell you the truth many people are too afraid to say out loud. There comes a moment in every person's life when they feel a strange pressure, an inner battle between what they want to do and what they know they should do. And most people never admit it, but deep down they sense it. Every time they choose ego over humility, impulse over discipline, comfort over responsibility, life pushes back harder. They start losing relationships, opportunities, peace, energy, and purpose. It feels like the world is against them. But what if it isn't the world? What if they've been going against the very source that created the rules of growth, success, and fulfillment? Today's message will disturb you, challenge you, maybe even expose parts of yourself you've avoided for years. But here's why you need to stay until the very end, because once you realize what going against God really means, you'll understand exactly why certain patterns repeat in your life, why certain doors stay closed, and how to finally break the cycle. This isn't a religious lesson. It's a reality check, a life strategy, a roadmap to stop self-sabotage at the deepest level. Stay with me until the end, because if you grasp these 6 key ideas, you won't just gain clarity, you'll gain control. Most people think that going against God is about religion, about prayer, about following rituals or not. That's not what I'm talking about. Going against God is much more subtle, much more insidious, and much more personal than that. It is about going against the very design that you were given, the blueprint that dictates how you function, how you grow, how you survive, and ultimately how you succeed. Every human being has a certain structure built into them, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This structure is the sum total of your values, your talents, your instincts, and your potential. When you act against that structure, you create friction inside yourself. You start living a life that is out of alignment with who you were made to be, and the consequences are unavoidable. You may not notice it at first. You may think everything is fine, but slowly, quietly, life begins to push back. Opportunities that should come to you feel blocked. Relationships that should flourish start to crumble. Energy that you expect to feel every day begins to drain. You are paying a price, but you don't even know it, because the cost is built into the very act of going against your design. Think about the way your body works. If you ignore your health, if you eat poorly, if you refuse to move, if you abuse yourself, your body rebels. It doesn't take sides. It doesn't negotiate. It just reacts to the choices you make against the design of your own biology. Now consider your mind and your character. They work the same way. There are natural laws built into the way people grow, the way they handle challenges, and the way they develop skill and influence. When you act against these laws, when you choose instant gratification over delayed rewards, when you lie instead of being honest, when you hide from responsibility instead of confronting it, you are doing exactly the same thing as someone poisoning their body. The more you go against your natural design, the more you experience the pushback. You feel frustration, anxiety, depression, anger, confusion. These aren't random events. These are messages telling you that you are out of alignment, that you are acting against the very forces that were designed to help you thrive. Many people live their entire lives in this state without understanding why. They blame others for their failures. They blame circumstances. They blame society. But the reality is, the problem is internal first. It is the result of decisions that violate your personal blueprint, your natural wiring. God didn't create you randomly. You were designed with talents, personality traits, intuition, instincts, and opportunities that, if respected, could lead you to fulfillment and success. But every time you act against that design, you delay your potential and increase your suffering. This is why some people work harder than anyone else and never seem to get ahead. It's why some people pray, seek advice, and read all the books and still feel empty inside. It's because they are working against the very architecture of their own life. This is why understanding your design is so critical. It is why self-awareness is not optional, it is essential. You need to understand what drives you, what gives you energy, what aligns with your purpose, and what pulls you down. The key is not just knowledge, it's action. Knowledge without action is meaningless. You can read every self-help book in the world, listen to every speech, follow every strategy, but if your actions are contrary to your design, the results will be temporary at best and catastrophic. At worst, going against your design is a slow form of self-sabotage that compounds over time. It is the subtle enemy that disguises itself as convenience, pleasure, or even ambition. You might be chasing success in a way that feels right, but is fundamentally wrong for who you are. You might be pursuing a relationship, a career, or a lifestyle that looks good on paper, but drains your energy and erodes your spirit. And here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. No external force can make you suffer the way you suffer when you go against your design. Critics, bosses, rivals, and even life events are secondary. The primary conflict is internal. It is the battle between who you are meant to be and who you pretend to be. This is the reason why some people seem to have everything and still feel hollow. They are successful according to external measures, but internally they are constantly fighting their own nature. They are living a life of resistance instead of alignment, and resistance is exhausting. Resistance is painful. Resistance leads to mistakes, regrets, and missed opportunities, and it can show up in every area of life: financial, relational, emotional, and spiritual. The sad truth is that most people spend decades going against their design without realizing it. They ignore their instincts. They avoid hard truths. They choose the path of least resistance, which paradoxically is the path of greatest resistance over time. They think rebellion against rules or guidance is a form of freedom, but true freedom is only experienced when you are aligned with your blueprint. Going against God, in this sense, is not an act of defiance against religion. It is an act of defiance against your own life, against the very structure that was built to help you succeed. And here's the critical insight: alignment with your design is not passive, it is active. It requires discipline, courage, and relentless honesty with yourself. It requires examining your habits, your decisions, and your values. It requires asking hard questions about whether the way you live matches the way you were meant to live. Every person has areas where they are going against their design without realizing it. Maybe it's staying in a job that doesn't use your gifts. Maybe it's maintaining relationships that drain you. Maybe it's lying to yourself about what you truly want. Maybe it's ignoring your health, your mind, or your spirit. Whatever the form, the principle is the same. When your life is out of alignment with the design you were given, chaos is inevitable. Success, fulfillment, and peace are not rewards for luck or for talent alone. They are the natural byproduct of living in alignment with your design. And resistance to this design produces exactly the opposite: frustration, confusion, and a sense of purposelessness. The question is not whether life will push back. The question is whether you will listen, whether you will adjust, whether you will stop fighting the force that wants to guide you toward your best self. The people who succeed, truly succeed, are not necessarily the smartest, the luckiest, or the most talented. They are the ones who figure out the rules of their own design, who stop fighting the natural architecture of their life, who make choices in harmony with their gifts, instincts, and purpose. Alignment doesn't mean life becomes easy. Challenges will still come, failures will still happen, pain will still exist. But the friction inside you, the chaos that arises from resistance, begins to disappear. You start to feel flow in your decisions. Energy returns, clarity emerges, and most importantly, you begin to experience results that match your effort, because effort aligned with design produces growth, momentum, and success. Every time you ignore your own design, every time you go against the very wiring of your life, you pay a price that is both invisible and real. You might not see it in the moment, but it compounds over months, years, and decades. It shows up in lost time, missed opportunities, broken relationships, and a sense of emptiness that no external success can fill. Understanding this is the first step toward mastery, because mastery begins with awareness. You must recognize where you are fighting against yourself. You must identify where you are rejecting the very structure of your life. And you must take immediate, consistent action to correct it, to realign with the force that created you and gave you the tools to thrive. Every person wants blessings. Everyone wants success, recognition, love, opportunities, wealth, and influence. We pray for them, we chase them, we dream about them. And yet, most people completely ignore one fundamental truth. Every gift comes with a responsibility. There is no blessing that exists in a vacuum. There is no gift that comes without a price. This is not a punishment. It is the design of the universe, the structure of life, the natural law that governs everything. A gift in its truest form is a tool, and tools are only valuable when used with intention, skill, and respect. If you take a gift and abuse it, neglect it, or ignore it, you are not only wasting it, you are working against the very force that gave it to you. Think about your talents. Think about the things you are naturally good at. You were given certain abilities, some small, some extraordinary. Some people are born with creativity that can move people. Some are born with strength that can protect others. Some are born with intelligence that can change industries. But here's the catch. These gifts are not for you alone. They are not for idle pleasure. They are tools designed to fulfill a purpose. When you ignore them, when you fail to nurture them, when you avoid using them in the way they were meant to be used, you are violating a responsibility. And the universe, God, life, whatever you want to call it, will create friction until you recognize this truth. Opportunities work the same way. Most people think that opportunities are blessings only when they are easy or convenient. They think a promotion, a chance to lead, an offer to create, or an invitation to step forward is valuable in itself. But the real value of an opportunity is in what you do with it. Opportunity is a responsibility waiting to be claimed. It is a test disguised as a gift. Some people have doors open to them over and over, but they refuse to step through them, or they step through without preparation, without commitment, without accountability. The gift becomes wasted, the blessing becomes burden, and life pushes back. Even in relationships, this law applies. Love, friendship, trust, and loyalty are all gifts, but they are fragile. They require respect, effort, and care. When you take these gifts for granted, when you exploit them, or when you fail to honor the people who offer them, you are failing a responsibility. You can't complain about betrayal if you were careless with trust. You can't complain about heartbreak if you ignored the responsibilities of communication, honesty, and commitment. Every gift carries the instruction manual that many people refuse to read. And that refusal comes at a cost. The same is true for material blessings. Money, resources, status, these are all gifts with embedded responsibility. Money is not just a symbol of wealth, it is a tool of influence and stewardship. Status is not just attention, it is an obligation to act with integrity and purpose. Resources are not just possessions. They are opportunities to create impact and generate value for yourself and others. When you misuse these gifts, when you hoard them, waste them, or abuse them, life has a way of reclaiming them. The universe doesn't negotiate. It doesn't tolerate negligence. The principle is clear. Gifts are conditional on responsibility. Most people avoid this responsibility because it is uncomfortable. Responsibility requires discipline, focus, effort, and sometimes sacrifice. It forces you to face hard truths about yourself, about your limitations, and about your obligations to others. It requires you to plan, to act, to commit, to take accountability for the consequences of your choices. But here's the harsh reality: blessings that come without responsibility are illusions. Temporary highs that fade, relationships that crumble, wealth that disappears, opportunities that vanish. When you ignore responsibility, the gift stops being a blessing and starts being a liability. This is why so many people are frustrated in life. They are given extraordinary gifts, opportunities, and talents, yet they feel empty, unfulfilled, or stuck. It is not because the world is unfair. It is not because they are unlucky. It is because they are not honoring the responsibility that comes with the gifts they have been given. The universe doesn't punish them. It simply enforces the law of alignment between gifts and responsibility. Gifts are a trust, they are a calling, and when you refuse to treat them as such, you experience friction, resistance, failure, and disappointment. Consider people who achieve early success. Some athletes, entrepreneurs, or leaders rise to prominence quickly. They are celebrated, rewarded, admired, but if they fail to recognize the responsibility attached to their gift, the discipline, the practice, the humility, the foresight, they inevitably decline. Talent without work is wasted. Opportunity without preparation is squandered. Influence without integrity is destroyed. The initial gift may bring temporary satisfaction, but without embracing responsibility, it creates chaos and pain. This is the reason why some of the most gifted people end up in failure, isolation, or scandal. The gift was never the problem, it was the refusal to accept the responsibility that came with it. Even in the spiritual sense, this principle holds true. Blessings are never meant to be hoarded. Talents are never meant to be hidden. Time is never meant to be wasted. Life constantly tests whether you can manage what you have been given. Every gift is a mirror, showing you whether you are ready for more, whether you are capable of growth, and whether you are willing to honor your purpose. To ignore responsibility is to reject growth itself. It is to block the flow of abundance, peace, and fulfillment. The sad reality is that many people never realize this until it is too late. They wait for life to reward them without understanding that rewards are contingent on responsibility. They pray for blessings without preparing to manage them. They desire influence without cultivating the character to wield it wisely. They chase wealth without the habits to sustain it. Every gift ignored, abused, or mismanaged compounds into lost potential, wasted years, and repeated cycles of frustration. And here is the key insight: responsibility is not a punishment. It is the path to mastery, fulfillment, and impact. Every time you honor a gift with effort, diligence, integrity, and respect, the blessing multiplies. Every time you take responsibility for a gift, you unlock doors to even greater gifts. Opportunities expand. Relationships deepen, influence grows, wealth and success are amplified, energy returns, life begins to flow in ways that were previously impossible. Responsibility turns a gift into power, a tool into legacy, and potential into reality. The difference between people who thrive and people who struggle is almost always this: those who thrive understand that gifts are inseparable from responsibility. Those who struggle ignore it. They take for granted the talents, resources, opportunities, and relationships they were given. They treat life as a game of luck rather than a system of cause and effect. They wonder why success eludes them, why doors stay closed, why life feels heavy and unfair. The answer is simple. They are not managing the gifts they already have. They are neglecting the responsibility that ensures those gifts create lasting impact. Every gift has a measure, a standard, a duty attached to it. To ignore that is to invite consequences. To embrace it is to unlock momentum, and this principle applies to every area of life: personal, professional, relational, and spiritual. Success is never an accident. Fulfillment is never random. Peace is never a coincidence. Each is the product of recognizing the gift, understanding the responsibility, and taking deliberate, consistent action to honor both. The question is not whether life will give you gift. It already has. The question is whether you are ready to accept the responsibility that comes with them and act accordingly. Because the moment you refuse responsibility, the gift loses its power and becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Every person has a voice inside them. Call it intuition, conscience, inner wisdom, or even the voice of God. Whatever you want to name it, it exists. It is the quiet, persistent signal that tells you what is right and what is wrong, what aligns with your purpose and what will derail you, what action to take and what action to avoid. The problem is that most people are masters at ignoring it. They push it aside with distractions, excuses, rationalizations, and self-deception. They pretend it doesn't exist, or they label it as fear, doubt, or overthinking. But the truth is that voice is not optional. It is not irrelevant, and ignoring it does not silence it. Ignoring it only delays the consequences that will inevitably arrive. Think about it. When a person continually ignores the warning signs in their life, emotional, physical, spiritual, or relational, those signs do not disappear. They compound. Small alerts that could have been heeded escalate into crises. Minor frustrations evolve into disasters. Every decision made in opposition to that inner voice is like stepping on a seed of friction, planting consequences that will eventually grow into a storm. People think that ignoring the voice protects them from discomfort or makes them feel free, but in reality, it merely delays the inevitable reckoning. The voice is persistent, and eventually, it becomes the consequences you face in life. Let's take relationships, for example. When your inner voice tells you that someone is toxic, dishonest, or manipulative, ignoring it doesn't remove the problem. Instead, it allows the situation to grow. Boundaries are crossed repeatedly. Trust is eroded. Emotional investment becomes painful. The voice was warning you from the beginning, but because you refused to listen, the consequences multiply. Heartbreak, betrayal, and regret are never random. They are the results of ignoring your own internal compass. The universe doesn't punish you. It simply allows the natural consequences of ignoring the signals that were given to you to unfold. This same principle applies to careers and opportunities. That gut feeling that a particular decision is wrong, that a deal is unwise, that a path is not yours to follow, is a guide. Many people override it because the external appearance looks good. The money seems right, the prestige is tempting, the crowd supports it. But internally, they feel hesitation, doubt, unease. When they ignore that inner signal, they often find themselves in toxic workplaces, failing ventures, or situations that undermine their growth. The warning was there, but they ignored it, believing that logic, ego, or fear of missing out was more reliable than the wisdom inside them. And over time, the consequences compound until they can no longer deny the truth. Even in personal growth, the voice is crucial. Most people are aware, at some level, of the habits, patterns, or behaviors that are destructive to them. They know they need to change, they know they need to grow, they know they need to confront uncomfortable truths, but they avoid it. They postpone, rationalize, and distract themselves. The voice keeps nudging, keeps warning, keeps alerting them, but the longer it is ignored, the louder life's consequences become. Eventually, the voice transforms into reality: illness, stagnation, failed goals, stress, and loss. What was once a whisper becomes a roar in the form of unavoidable outcomes. The irony is that the consequences are never unfair. They are entirely predictable. Ignoring the inner voice is like refusing to see a red light at an intersection. You may think you have control, but eventually a collision occurs. And collisions in life are rarely minor. They are often costly, painful, and complicated. Ignoring the voice may provide temporary comfort, but it cannot protect you from the inevitable feedback loop that your life enforces when warnings are disregarded. Every ignored signal is like borrowing time from reality, and the debt is always collected with interest. Spiritual alignment is no different. That subtle feeling in your soul when you know something is wrong, when you sense that a choice conflicts with your purpose, or when you feel disconnected from what matters, is not random. It is guidance. Ignoring it creates spiritual dissonance, which manifests as anxiety, dissatisfaction, and a sense that life is unfair. People blame circumstances, other people, or luck, but the root cause is internal. The voice was there all along. The only difference between those who live with peace and those who struggle is whether they listen. Those who listen adjust, course correct, and align with the signals. Those who ignore eventually face the consequences in ways that are painful and unavoidable. Even in decision making, the pattern is consistent. Many of the worst mistakes in life are made not because a person didn't know what to do, but because they ignored what they already knew. That inner voice, that gut instinct, that flash of clarity when disregarded turns into regret. Bad investments, toxic partnerships, failed ventures, and damaged reputations are almost always traceable back to ignoring this voice. Life doesn't care about excuses. Life only enforces the consequences that arise when your internal guidance is overruled by fear, ego, or distraction. And here's the essential truth. Listening to your inner voice is not optional if you want to live a life of fulfillment and purpose. It is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows stronger with use. When you consistently pay attention to it, when you act on its warnings, when you align your choices with its guidance, life becomes more manageable, more predictable, and more rewarding. But neglect it, suppress it, or dismiss it, and it will still speak. It will just speak through consequences that are harder, harsher, and unavoidable. Most people fail to recognize that the voice is not just an alert system. It is a form of protection. It is a mechanism designed to keep you aligned with your purpose, your gifts, and your destiny. To ignore it is to willingly put yourself at risk. To listen is to leverage the wisdom that already exists within you. Every time you ignore the voice, you are delaying growth, postponing clarity, and increasing the cost of mistakes. Every time you listen, you are investing in your future, strengthening your intuition, and reducing the friction that life will inevitably apply. The longer the voice is ignored, the more intense the consequences. Small warnings become major crises. Minor misalignments evolve into systemic failures. What could have been corrected with a single decision becomes compounded regret. Ignoring the voice is not defiance of chance. It is defiance of the natural order that governs personal growth, purpose, and fulfillment. The results are predictable, measurable, and unavoidable. Understanding this principle is critical because it changes the way you operate in life. It shifts your mindset from reactive to proactive. It turns internal guidance into actionable intelligence. It makes you aware that the whispers you dismiss today may very well become the storms you face tomorrow. Every person who wants to succeed, grow, or live with purpose must learn to identify the voice, honor it, and act upon it consistently. Neglecting it is the fastest route to repeated failure, frustration, and disillusionment.